That's the horror double bill, next Saturday evening starting at 10:35.
I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
Hey guys! Today I'm doing part 3 of my horror double bill seasons. It's a retro look at the BBC's double bills that they used to have during the summer. And this is probably the best season. It was called Dracula, Frankenstein and Friends, and it was on telly in 1977. And what I'll do for a bit fun is rate the films, say if the first film's better than the second film, because I have a theory that the best film's always the second one. So Dracula, Frankenstein and Friends lasted 11 weeks. It's the longest season. And this season got us properly into horror films. As well as this book, it's a bit battered now, A Pictorial History of Horror Movies. I got this book round about the same time. I was really into horror films at this point as a kid. I used to look at the book and then look forward to the films. I used to also get really hyped up at the Radio Times, especially the first week, because it was Dracula from 1931 against Frankenstein also from 1931. So I was really hyped up this night. It's probably the best night of horror films as a kid. Dead looking forward to it. So Dracula, which I've reviewed on the channel, stars Bela Lugosi, directed by Todd Browning. Absolute classic. With this film, the beginning's better than the second half. The stuff in Dracula's castle, brilliant, really atmospheric. Real classic film, and Bela's on top form. This is his best film by far. And it's also kind of unique. He wouldn't properly play Dracula again. He played him in Abbott and Costello Mate Frankenstein. That was just a comedy. So although it's like old, 1931, it's still got creepy atmosphere to it. Really surprising when you watch it. And that was followed by Frankenstein, the 1931 version. I've also reviewed this film on my channel, directed by James Whale. Boris Karloff is the monster, and he looks really scary in this film. He's like thinner, Boris Karloff. He looks more scary, I think, in this than his other two films. And both of these two films, Dracula and Frankenstein, they don't have a music score. And he makes them both eerie. It seems to heighten the impact of the horror. Which one do I like best out of these two films? Very close. I love both of these films, but I think I've got to give it to Dracula because it's a bit more unique. Boris Karloff played the monster in a couple of more films where Bela didn't really play Dracula much.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
So that's the first film 1, the second film 0. Next up, we've got The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935 and The Brides of Dracula from 1960. So these two films are kind of linked because they're about brides in the title. And this happened a lot with these double bills. Usually they used to get a couple of films that there was like a link between them. So The Bride of Frankenstein, also directed by James Whale. Boris Karloff is the monster, and I think this one's the masterpiece of Universal monster movies. It's my personal favourite, and a lot of fans think it is as well. And he uses right at the end the famous line, "We belong dead." So why is this film so good? The monster's starting to speak, and he's becoming more intelligent, and it really worked. I think that's the main reason why this film's so popular. And also, the bride, she looks really good. Excellent climax where the monster pulls a switch and blows the castle up. And there's loads of brilliant scenes as well, like the scene with the hermit where the monster makes friends with him. And it just has a surreal look to it. Really great film. Whereas The Brides of Dracula, that's directed by Terence Fisher. And this is a Hammer film, so it's colour. So it always made a big difference after watching a black and white film first. And then the next film's colour. It used to be dead scary. And this film's highly regarded by fans as well. So that was 2 films in one night that highly regarded by fans. A lot of them say The Brides of Dracula is one of the best Hammer films. It is good, but I miss Christopher Lee. because he's not in it, it's like not quite as good as the other ones because he's not in. And I've reviewed it on the channel, so have a look if you want my full review of it. So out of these two films, I've got to give it to The Bride of Frankenstein, simply because it's the best Universal film.
We belong dead.
So that's the first film 2, the second film 0. Week 3 had The Mummy from 1932, and the second film was The Wolfman from 1941. So The Mummy has Boris Karloff in once again, covered in makeup, playing the mummy. The scene where he is the actual mummy with bandages, that's one of the best scenes in a horror film when he comes to life. You see him walking around and he picks up the scroll, and the guy who's read the scroll goes crazy when he sees the mummy. Brilliant scene. Unfortunately, later on, when you see Boris Karloff, he doesn't have his bandages. So it's a really strange film. And it is sort of like a bit of like a love story where the mummy is in love with this girl who's reincarnated. The next film is The Wolfman, and this is kind of made a star of Lon Chaney Jr. He plays the Wolfman. The makeup of the werewolf's really good for its time, and the transformation scenes. He gets bit by a werewolf, played by Bela Lugosi, and Lon Chaney Jr., this really is probably his best film, actually. He's excellent in it. So out of these two films, it's close, but I've got to give it to The Wolfman. So that's the first film 2, the second film 1. In week 4, we got The Son of Frankenstein from 1939, and the second film was Kiss of the Vampire from 1963 from Hammer. So Son of Frankenstein, it's the final time Boris Karloff plays the monster. You also get Basil Rathbone in. Anyone who's a fan of Sherlock Holmes, they'd recognise him. Bela Lugosi's in. So excellent cast. It's a good production as well. It's not as good as the first two, but it's still a really good production, and there's a lot of strange sets as well that are at funny, strange angles. It's very German expressionism. And Karloff playing the monster, he's got like a strange kind of sheepskin vest. It makes him more bulkier looking, like stronger. So really exciting, good film. And I like the ending where Basil Rathbone playing the Son of Frankenstein, he kicks the monster into this sulphur pit. Great ending, that. Then you get Kiss of the Vampire, the second film, Hammer film. This is a strange one. It's pretty good, vampires. The ending's good as well, where you see a ton of bats at the end. I like that. It's still a miss not having Christopher Lee though in a vampire film. So like when you're watching it, you wish, I'd rather watch Christopher Lee as Dracula. But two good films, I prefer The Son of Frankenstein better. That's the first film 3, the second film 1. Week 5 you got Dracula's Daughter from 1936, The Plague of the Zombies from 1966. So Dracula's Daughter starts from the end of Dracula, so it's a straight follow-on. Bella's not in it, that's a shame. In fact, the character Dracula's not in it. It's a strange film. There's also a hint of lesbianism, which is amazing for 1936. Professor Van Helsing's in from Dracula, so that's a nice continuity link. But the film's not a patch on Dracula. It's like a power follow-on, really, and it's a bit slow in parts. Plague of the Zombies, with it being a colour film, I remember at the time watching it. As a kid, I stopped up and watched the beginning, and when the coffin gets dropped and you see a dead body inside the coffin, that was it. I think I had enough and I went to bed. But it's a really good film. The zombies look really creepy, actually. It's the only zombie film Hammer did, and it's kind of a remake of White Zombie. So out of these two films, I've got to give it to Plague of the Zombie. That's the first film 3, the second film 2. Week 6, we saw The Ghost of Frankenstein from 1942 and The Premature Burial from 1962. So The Ghost of Frankenstein, it's an underrated film. It's one of my favourite Universal Frankenstein films. This time Boris Karloff's not the monster, it's Lon Chaney Jr. He's quite good. Actually, the reason why I like this film so much is near the end of the film, the transplant goes brain into the monster and he speaks in his voice. I thought that was excellent at the time. And then the house burns down. And it looks like it could have been like the end of the series. It would have been a good ending, that. So excellent film, really underrated. The second film's The Premature Burial. This is American International Pictures, the poor films. But Vincent Price isn't in this film. Ray Milland's in. It's about him being terrified about being buried alive. Really creepy film, and these American International Pictures do have a weird feel to them, like a nightmarish feel. But out of these two films, I've got to give it to The Ghost of Frankenstein. It's an excellent film, that.
I, Igor, will live forever.
So that's the first film 4, the second film 2. Week 7 was a strange one. It was The Raven from 1935 and The Black Cat from 1934. And they both star Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. The Raven, it's just like an average film, really. A bit disappointing, actually. Karloff's got makeup on again and he's just like impersonating his Frankenstein monster a bit. Disappointing film, actually, that one. But The Black Cat, it's a massive improvement, and it's one of Bella's best performances. He's excellent in this film, and there's even a torture scene. And the house that he's living in, it's a bizarre looking house. Excellent film. So out of these two films, it's definitely the second film that's better.
You will find her almost as beautiful as when you last saw her. She died 2 years after the war.
So that's the first film 4, the second film 3. Week 8's a good one. It's Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1943 and The Raven, 1963. Not to get confused with last week's The Raven. So Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. It's a strange title, that, actually. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. It's as though they're friends. So Frankenstein monsters coming to meet the Wolfman for a cup of tea or something. Should have been Frankenstein versus the Wolfman. And the title, you think there's going to be a massive fight, but it's a bit disappointing that the fight at the end. There's also a song and dance number in the film. Actually, I'm a bit disappointed with this film. And this is when the Frankenstein series started to go downhill, when they had other monsters mating each other. It didn't really work. They're still fun films, but they're not very believable. I think what really spoils this film for me, though, is they got Bela Lugosi to play the Frankenstein monster, which was sort of a good idea at the time, because he played Igor in the last film, The Ghost of Frankenstein, and they transferred his brain into the monster, so it seemed logical that he should play the monster in this film. But his performance is terrible. Easily one of the worst actors to play the monster, and he's like snarling and stuff. It looks terrible. He totally spoils the film for me. Also, the monster could speak in the last film. At the end, the monster could speak, and in this film, he can't speak again. So that's bad continuity. So The Raven from 1963, it's got a great cast. It's got Vincent Price, it's got Boris Karloff, it's got Peter Lorre. It's a great film, and it's more comedy than the other Roger Corman poor films. There's still a little bit of horror in it. I like the magical fight at the end between Vincent Price and Boris Karloff doing that, and there's light coming out of their fingers. Excellent magical fight, that, using magic powers. So out of them two films, I'll give it to The Raven, I think. So that's the first film 4, the second film 4. Week 9 had The House of Frankenstein, and the second film was The Reptile, another film from Hammer. So The House of Frankenstein's a weird film. It's got Boris Karloff in. It's got John Carradine as Dracula. Got Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. It's got Glenn Strange as the monster. So Frankenstein's monster's in, Dracula's in, the Wolfman's in. It's pity they didn't have the mummy in. So it is a strange mixture of a film, but it is kind of so bizarre, it's good to watch. John Carradine's a weird Dracula with his top hat, turning into a bat. Really weird film, having load of monsters mating each other. So the second film was The Reptile. It's a bit average actually. It's not one of the best. I think the monster looked a bit odd, and you don't get to see the actual reptile until towards the end of the film, which is disappointing. So out of them two films, I definitely prefer House of Frankenstein. It's more fun. So that's the first film 5, the second film 4. Week 10 was The Son of Dracula from 1943 and The Evil of Frankenstein from 1964. So Son of Dracula, strange casting, the cast Lon Chaney Jr. as Dracula. To put it frankly, he's too fat. It's like a chubby guy. You expect Dracula to be thin, and he doesn't look right somehow. But it is a good film. In this one, he gets killed by daylight. That was really good, how they interfered with his coffin so he couldn't get in it. Whereas The Evil of Frankenstein, Peter Cushing again as Frankenstein. It's the third in the series. It's a strange film. With this one, it's almost like a reboot. The monster, it looks more like Karloff. The makeup, not as good, but that's what they were kind of basing it on. And the sets are bigger. So out of them two films, I'm definitely giving it to The Evil of Frankenstein. So that's the first film 5, the second film 5. So the final week we had The House of Dracula from 1945, The Fall of the House of Usher from 1960. House of Dracula, it's similar to House of Frankenstein. They're getting all the monsters together again. This one's not quite as good. Frankenstein monster, you hardly see him when he's reactivated. It's only right at the end of the film, so that's disappointing. But it's still entertaining enough. Although it's weird watching all these monsters in one film. Like the believability factor goes down. It's still kind of fun, they're never boring. Also, The House of Dracula's kind of the end of an era. Although they would later do Abbott and Costello make Frankenstein, they were just comedies. This was like the last of the Universal monster films to feature the Frankenstein monster and all the other monsters. So it's kind of sad in a way, a final film of an era. Whereas The Fall of the House of Usher from 1960, that was like the start of an era. This is the first of the Edgar Allan Poe films. I've reviewed it on my channel. Vincent Price does an excellent performance in this one. He uses his voice because he can't stand loud noises, so he talks soft in this film. It emphasises Price's voice. Brilliant film, and he gives an excellent performance. So out of these two films, I'm going to give it to the second film.
Vivian Usher, blackmailer, harlot, murderess. She died in the madhouse.
So the first film got 5, and the second film won with 6. So once again, the second film wins. That's 3 in a row. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Dracula, Frankenstein and Friends from 1977. And in part 4, I'll be doing 1978. And that's called Monster Double Bill. So look out for that one. Okay, subscribe, like and share. See you next time. Bye everyone. Bye.
Is the referee for another round of words and wit under the guise of Fuckazar at 8:25. Is that a big cock? Is at 10:45. Jeffrey Smith and I.